Okay, welcome to the spring 2021 semester in my Psych 300 class. I thought I would take this opportunity right off the bat to go over the syllabus and make sure that everyone knew exactly how the class was set up so that you have the best chance of getting an A in the class and doing the best you can. First off, I want to make sure you know that there will never be a time that we're going to meet online as a class. There's never going to be a time that you have to be online with me or with anybody else in class. The class is totally asynchronous in that regard. That means you should be able to work it around your work. You should be able to work it around other classes and just about anything else that you got going on in your life. Now, the class may involve a fair amount of work, although not any more than a typical class at ARC. You should be able to do whatever work is required in this class fairly easily, fitting it around your other schedule, the rest of your schedule. I just also want to mention that I don't really like this format. I'm actually probably going to retire before the year is out because I don't like the format and I'm just getting old, and this is my 30th year at ARC as a full-timer. I started in 1992 as a full-timer and 1989 as a part-timer, so I'm getting ready to do other things with my life. What else? I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. Now, you're going to actually tell me a little bit about yourselves in the first assignment that's going to be due on the second Wednesday of the class. Looking at the schedule right now, actually, it's January 27th. You're going to have a personal introduction due. I'm just going to give you a little bit of introduction about myself. So again, I've been here for a long, long time, and I still like to teach. I regret not being able to teach face-to-face in class because that's really what I enjoy about teaching is the interaction with students, and I just really don't have that anymore. And so I'm not really loving this type of schedule, but I do know that the schedule may be ideal for some of you students. And we're just going to make the best of it and do the best we can, and hopefully we'll be able to get back to class. You'll be able to get back to class with your professors sometime toward the end of this year. Before I started working at ARC in 1989 as a part-timer, I worked for several years as a marketing researcher for Eschaton in Sacramento and Beverly Enterprises, another long-term care provider. And I also worked for a marketing research company in Evansville, Indiana, testing television advertising. Prior to that, I spent 5 plus maybe 6 years in South Bend, Indiana, getting my PhD in social psychology from the University of Notre Dame. Then I worked for a couple of years before that in between my undergraduate degree and my graduate degree. My undergraduate degree was earned in 1979 from Brigham Young University, where I studied psychology as well. I actually took a class in psychology at American River College in 1973 as a early graduate from high school at the age of 17. And I loved it, and I knew that I was going to go on into psychology from that point on, although I didn't know exactly what I was going to do until quite a bit later. After my second year at BYU, and I went to the ARC for a year, and then went to a year at BYU, and then I went on a mission for the church. After my second year there, I got married. Ended up having 4 daughters, so we now have 6 grandsons and 6 granddaughters and 2 grandsons. One daughter lives with us, and another one lives in Orangevale, another one in Pennsylvania, another one in Iowa City. In my spare time, I have done a lot of golfing in the last several years since the age of 52, but I'm kind of giving that up because I just can't play as well as I would like. I'm a do-it-yourselfer kind of a guy, so over the last year or so since the beginning of the pandemic, I've done so many projects around the house, and I can kind of see what my retirement will be like when I'm not traveling, because I just have always had projects to do around the house. My wife and I do really enjoy traveling. I've run a study abroad program in London every summer since 2012, and for a couple of semesters previous to that in 2003 and 2007. We're actually going to go to London again this spring or summer, early summer, for a church mission for 18 months, but that's been postponed, and so it's likely that rather than teaching some of this class from London like I expected, I'll probably be here the whole semester, but hopefully by the end of spring or summer, or maybe by the end of the year, we'll be in London and we'll get a little more travel again. So through my study abroad programs before and other travel that we wanted to do, we've been to every country virtually in Europe, East and West part of Europe, and Japan 3 times. And hopefully we can continue to travel again as we get older and get retired. So anyway, that's a little bit about me, a little bit about my interests, a little bit about my background. Now let me just go through the syllabus. I'm mainly going to look at the part that deals with the second page of the syllabus, grading, and the last page, which is the calendar. And I do have a copy of the syllabus right underneath the picture of Cinque Terre in Italy on the homepage of my Canvas site. You can download the syllabus there, and I hope you do download it and you refer to the syllabus. You're going to want to take a look at it, make sure you understand it, so that you know what's expected of you and you have the best shot at getting a good grade in the class. But I am going to go through the syllabus today, just make sure right off the bat you know what's going on. So first of all, I do have a phone number on my syllabus, but I'm not there at the office. I can still get messages there, but the best way to get a hold of me is through my email, stewarm, STEWARM, @arc.losrios.edu. I'll generally get back to you within a day if it's during the week, and if it's on the weekend, maybe if I'm not real busy doing other things. The textbook is Psychology by Hockenberry and Nolan, the 8th edition, 2018. Now, I purposefully have kept a older edition for this class so that it's not expensive for you. You should be able to get there should be plenty of used copies out there of that book for use in this class, and therefore it shouldn't be a whole lot of money. You can get any version of the book you want. You can get the ebook that the publisher offers. You can get a audio book. You can get a loaner, a rental. You can buy it hardbound, softbound, any way you can get it. You don't want to get Discovering Psychology by the same authors. That's not the right book. It's a condensed version, and that's not going to have everything that you're going to need to do well in this class. Don't get any book by any other author, even if it's called Psychology, and even if it looks like it's going to be similar in the way the chapters are aligned, it's undoubtedly not going to cover the material in the same way and to the same extent that these authors are. And my tests and quizzes are going to be based on this book, and my lectures are based on the way that the material is presented in this book, 8th edition of Hockenberry and Nolan, Psychology. So you're shooting yourself in the foot if you don't get a book at all. You're shooting yourself in the book if you get shooting yourself in the foot if you get a different book. All right. So let's go to grading. As I said, your first assignment is going to be a personal introduction, similar to, it doesn't have to be as detailed as what I give you, but a personal introduction about yourself to me, since I'm not going to get to meet you individually and see you face to face and get to know you very well this semester through being in the same class face to face. So I would like to get to know students through this personal introduction. And it is a way that I kind of know right off the bat who is going to participate in the class. So if you don't do this personal introduction due January 27th, I may consider dropping you. Now I'll just mention right now that every assignment we have this semester, there are no makeups. I will not accept late work. When I first started teaching, I thought my job was to fill students' heads full of information. And then I began to realize that it's more important that I teach students how to think. And I still think that is the most important thing that I'm doing as a teacher, hopefully, is to teach students how to think and giving them tools with which to think about psychology and human behavior in a different way than maybe they have done in the past. But at the same time, in the last several years, I've begun to realize that students need to be taught that the real world is that there are not a lot of makeups, there's not a lot of do-overs, and there are deadlines, and you need to do things when they need to be done. Otherwise, you're not going to succeed. So anyway, I'm trying to teach that through no makeup policies, no late work in this class. So anyway, if you don't do the personal introduction, I may drop you. If you get a hold of me and you tell me, no, I want to be in the class, but I just missed the deadline for whatever reason, not a good thing, by the way. But if you tell me you want to stay in the class, I won't drop you, but I won't give you the 20 points for that. By the way, you'll be able to make up those 20 points simply by doing well on the other semesters throughout the semester, but it's not a good start to miss that. I should mention also, right underneath the syllabus on the Canvas website are the chapter modules. Chapter 1, Chapter 12, Chapter 11. That's the order we're going to cover the chapters in. Chapter 2, Chapter 9, Chapter 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and 14, and 15. Within each one of those chapter modules is everything you need to have, all the assignments that you're going to have to do in association with the chapters in the textbook that we're going to cover. There's my lecture on PowerPoint. There's my lecture on video, on YouTube video. There's chapter study questions. I'm not going to cover everything in the lectures, and yet there's a lot of things in the book that I could cover on the quizzes and the tests. So just to help you, direct you toward the information that's most important to know, whether it's in the book or the lecture, I have those chapter study questions. So that's your guide as to what's to study. There will also be a discussion board assignment, a quiz for the chapter, and then something called additional Canvas activities for each chapter. Is that it? I think that's it. So for every chapter, in every chapter module, there will be those things. And basically, if you just follow through these chapter modules throughout the semester, you'll know what to do and when, and you'll be fine. Now on the quizzes are 10 points, 10 questions, 10 points. They're multiple choice, and you get to take them as many times as you want. So unlimited attempts. You do them online in Canvas, and you have as much time as you need to do each one of the quizzes, the quiz each time. Now you run out of time when the due date occurs. But up until that time, you have unlimited time to do the quizzes and unlimited attempts. So the idea is that if you're taking 14 quizzes and each one of them are worth 10 points, you should be able to get 140 points out of 140 points throughout the semester by making sure you do all the quizzes and getting the maximum number of points. In fact, the class is kind of designed so that if you do get maximum points on the quizzes, the discussion board posts, and the additional Canvas activities, you'll likely build a cushion that you may need to get an A in the class or a B in the class or even a C in the class if you haven't done that well on the tests and the paper. So the tests and the paper are where students tend to fall down a little bit. They tend to be a little tougher, particularly the tests. And so you need to make sure you maximize all of your points on the quizzes, the discussion board posts, and the additional Canvas activities. If you do that, you will greatly magnify and enhance your chances of getting a decent grade in the class. Now, the discussion board posts are worth 5 points for each chapter. Basically, I'm going to give you a prompt for each chapter, and you're going to make a response to that prompt, your original unique thoughts about that prompt. Usually it's going to be an opinion. I'm just trying to get you to think about the topic. So that first one that you do is going to be worth 3 points, and then you're also going to make a response to another student. So you're going to read somebody else's response to the prompt, and you're going to respond to them. And if you do that well, you're going to get 2 points. Now you should be able to get 5 points out of 5 points on every single one of those. But let me just warn you that I really have come to realize that students have discussion board fatigue since March of last year. I think a lot of my colleagues are using discussion boards in lieu of the discussions we would normally have in class, and a lot of students are getting tired of them. However, I'm still continuing to use a discussion board post because I do think it's a way to get students to think about topics and to get them exposed to somebody else's way of thinking besides my own and besides what's in the textbook. So anyway, going back to the 2 points that you should receive when you make a response to another student, I won't give you those 2 points if you say something like, and this is all too common when I think students are experiencing discussion board fatigue. Oh, I really loved your response, your post. It was really great. You have a way with words, and I totally agree with you. I'm not going to give you 2 points for that because it doesn't add anything to the discussion, and it's too easy. I want you to be nice. I want you to be tolerant. I want you to be accepting and understanding, and of course, ethical and moral and all those good things. But sometimes I think students are too nice, and sometimes they're just not showing any additional thought. And if that's what happens in your post, I'm not going to give you the point. So even if you agree or you say, I really think that was a great post and I really agree, you need to say, but I also think that this is true. You need to give me an example. I think that's really true because this example kind of supports that. You need to give me some additional thoughts, some additional insight into your own thinking in order to get the 2 points. And that shouldn't be hard. But it is hard if you're just not taking this seriously. Okay, so discussion board posts every week. There's also something called additional Canvas activities. That's also worth 10 points. Most cases, you're going to be directed toward a video, an article, or something, some source. You're going to read it, you're going to watch it, do whatever you need to do, and then you're going to be asked questions, multiple choice or true-false questions designed to basically see if you understood and you got the gist of the message in that source. The very first additional Canvas activity is simply going to be a quiz on the syllabus to make sure you understand the syllabus. The rest of them are going to be the topic in the chapter. The questions are basically designed to make sure that you do it. They're not going to be really hard. You should be able to get 10 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 on virtually all of these. I think sometimes students will miss 1 or 2 questions. And so therefore, maybe the possibility of getting 140 points out of 140 points on the additional Canvas activities is a little less than the possibility of getting 140 out of 140 on the quizzes. Now, contrary to the quizzes, where those are unlimited attempts and unlimited time, the additional Canvas activity quizzes, you only have 2 attempts. You do have unlimited time on each attempt up until the due date, but you only get 2 attempts. All right, but you should, again, be able to build a cushion that you may use to get a good grade in the class by doing excellently, maybe even perfectly, on additional Canvas activities throughout the semester. All right, now, looking at the schedule again, there we go. Now, we're going to start out a little slowly. I'm going to cover the first chapter. You're going to look at the first PowerPoint and the video, chapter 1, in the first week and the second week. But the week after, the personal introduction is due January 27th, the second Wednesday of the class. On the next Wednesday, which is February 3rd, you're going to have the chapter 1 quiz, the discussion board, and the additional Canvas activity due. The next week, you're going to have the same thing due for chapter 12. And the week after that, you can have the same thing due on Wednesday for chapter 11. So basically, every Wednesday, beginning January 27th of the semester, you're going to have something due. The third week of the semester, you're going to have all 3 of those major chapter activities. And so on until we get to February 10th, when you have taken the February 17th. You will have taken the quiz and the additional Canvas activity and the discussion board post for chapter 11. You're going to take a test then on chapters 1, 12, and 11 by the end of February 17th. That, contrary to the other quizzes, is timed and you only get one attempt. So that's why these tests tend to be a little harder and scores tend to go down a little bit. But if you're studying the chapter study questions and making sure that you know that material, you should be basically well prepared for those tests. I think there's a learning curve, and you tend to get better at those tests over time because you have a better idea of how to study for them as time goes on, if you're a serious student. All right. After we take the test, I should also mention that you're going to have basically at least a week to do any assignment that becomes due. When Chapter 1 opens, the quiz, the discussion board, and the additional campus activities, I'm also going to open up Chapter 12 and Chapter 11 and the test. So you could actually work ahead and work through Chapters 1, 12, and 11 fairly quickly and get them all done before February 17th. But you have until February 17th to do each chapter, to do all the chapters. But once the due date is passed for Chapter 1, February 3rd, and the due date for Chapter 12 is passed, February 10th, then you won't be able to do those again. And again, there's no makeups. Now, after we do Chapter 2, Chapter 9, Chapter 3, same thing. We're going to have a test on those 3 chapters. And then we'll do Chapters 4, 5, and 6 and have a test on those. Now, I'm not going to cover the rest of the semester, but I need to talk about the summary analysis paper. You're going to have a paper that's due on March 1st. Now, that's pretty early in this semester, but I've decided to make it early this semester to give students a better look at how they're doing in the class before the semester gets away from them. If you're a student who tends not to write well and you didn't do that well on the paper, then you'll know that pretty early in the semester, and you'll have an opportunity to make up points by doing better on the chapter activities and the tests throughout the rest of the semester, and by planning on doing the extra credit at the very end of the semester. So I want students to get a pretty good idea of how you're going to do in the class pretty early in the semester. And so the paper is going to be due on March 1st. So you're going to want to be working on that paper pretty early on to do a good job on that paper. I have a separate video that describes the paper, exactly what I expect. So take a look at that video and be sure to ask me about questions as we go through the next couple of weeks. All right, now you're going to also have the opportunity to do an extra credit paper at the end of the semester. It's the same as the summary analysis paper that's required, but it only has to be 2 pages instead of 4 pages, and it's only worth 15 points. Now, I should also mention that if you miss a chapter assignment, a quiz, a discussion board post, or an additional campus activity, it will likely be your lowest score in each one of those categories, and that automatically will get dropped. So if you miss one of those, you don't have to worry, you don't have to panic, you don't have to email me, you don't have to give me any excuses. I'm not going to allow you to make it up. It's not going to matter. It's not going to hurt you. Now, if you miss one or more, two or more of any of those assignments, that's where it's going to begin to hurt you. And I don't want you to do that. But even if you miss 2 or more, as long as you don't miss a ton of those things, you probably still have a chance of getting a decent grade in the class and passing the class by doing well on the ones that you do. You just don't want to miss more than 2 or 3 of any of these categories, because that's when it really hurts your grade, and your chances of getting a decent grade tend to go down substantially. All right. I think that's about everything. I hope that the class is stimulating to you and you're thinking, that you are able to look at psychology and humans from a different perspective than maybe you have, and maybe you become a little more scientific in your perspective about human behavior and mental processes, and I hope you enjoy it. I think you will. I will enjoy reading your posts and your papers and seeing your performance come in. Be sure and ask me questions at any time via email. Again, I will respond pretty quickly if it's during the week. I want you all to do well, and I hope you do. I will see you online in a week or so. Thanks. Bye.